Morning. So today we're going to have a look at whether you should use the sine or cosine rule to find a missing length or angle in a given triangle, a non-right angle triangle. So here is the first example. You've been told that this angle here is 60 degrees, this angle here is 80 degrees, here is a length of 7 centimetres, and then you've been asked to find the value of x, or calculate the value of x. So if you're approaching this question, you'd see it at the end of an exam paper because it would be amongst the AA star topics. And you need to think about, am I going to be using the sine rule or the cosine rule? Now, when I did the cosine video, the general rule of thumb for cosine, if you were trying to find a length, you've got a side, an angle, and a side, and that angle sits in between those two adjoining sides. In this case, if I have a look at the value that I'm being asked to find, this x here, I've got a side, I've got an angle, but I've not been given another side there. Similarly, here I've been asked to find this side, I've got an angle there, but I don't have a side either side of it. And so by process of elimination, if that doesn't work, if we don't have the side, angle, side, it would follow that we're going to use the sine rule. And again, because the value that I'm trying to find is x, that's a missing length, so the version of the sine rule that I'm going to use is the one where we've got the side in the numerator. So a over sine A, b over sine of b, and c over sine of c. So we know that we have to, first of all, label our triangle. It's such an important part of this. So lowercase a is the length, and that means that the capital letter A has to be the angle opposite it, like so. For B, B is the length, so if I make that lowercase b, that's going to be capital B. And we always find that there's a third one that we don't really need, because I don't need all three parts of this fraction equation to work. So let's go through. If I substitute in the values, so A is x, and then that's going to be over sine of 80. B is 7, and that's going to be over sine of 60. And then I'm just going to rearrange to make x the subject of the formula. So I'm going to multiply both sides by sine of 80. And we'll find that those cancel. I will get x is equal to 7 over sine of 60 times by sine of 80. So pop that into your calculators and see what you get. So you should get x is equal to 7.96, and if I round that to one decimal place, we should get 8.0. And if the question does ask you to put it to one decimal place, it is really important that we don't forget that 0.0 and then centimetres. Okay, I'm going to do one more example for you to have a look at and see if you can start to work this out for yourself. Okay, so here's the second example. So say you're given this question and you are asked to calculate the value of x. Again, what I recommend is starting off by looking to see if you can use the cosine formula. So to use the cosine formula, you need to have a side, an angle and a side. Those sides must be adjacent, that means that they are linked together, and the angle's got to be squashed in between the two of them. So if I scan through this question, I have got a side, I have an angle, and that is squashed between the next side, and the two sides are adjoining, you know, they meet here at this vertex. And so I do have side, angle, side, which means I can use the cosine formula here. So I start to write that out. That is a squared, which is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times by cosine of a. So the missing one we want to use as lowercase a. Capital A I've just happened to have here from the side, angle, side. I'm going to move those off now so it doesn't become too confusing. I'm going to label this as B, so that would be capital B, not that I need that. And this is going to be my C, so that would be capital C there again, not that I need that. So a squared is equal to 22 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times by 22 times by 28 times by cosine of 97. And again, be really careful here because some people really do make that mistake of typing sine into their calculator just out of habit rather than cosine. So make sure you are using the correct trig function. So the answer that you come up with initially, and you must show this line of workings out because that's a method mark in exams. And this is the first answer you get, so 1,418. We know that that isn't reasonable in the context, we just need to do one more step. And I would say make sure with this that you are, again, using that answer button on your calculator so that you don't lose any accuracy. So here's the initial answer, 37.65, etc. I would write that in this case to one decimal place. So 37.7, it doesn't really say centimetres, but let's assume that it was. So that's how you decide whether you are using the cosine rule or the sine rule to solve a question.